Mary was born in a black and white room, and scientists didn't let her see colors until she turned 18. She saw something we didn't. Mary's room, also known as the knowledge argument, is a philosophical concept concerning a hypothetical woman, named Mary, who has never seen color. She has only ever existed in a black and white room. Mary studies the world through books and a monochromatic television screen. She reads about colors, but she does not experience them visually. Can the universe be fully understood in purely physical terms? The answer differs, depending on whether one believes that we know fundamental truths about reality a priori, without experience, or a posteriori, with experience. In other words, will Mary learn anything about color when she leaves the black and white room? It was a thought experiment. Nobody was supposed to actually do it. However, in 2007, a group of researchers sought to answer the question. And the experiment they conducted would have been condemned by boards of ethics across the globe, but these were not ethical scientists, and this was no ethical organization. I would have decried its actions back then. This wasn't why I joined the agency. But I was afraid. After all, they were willing to put an innocent baby in a colorless prison cell, doomed to grow up in near solitary confinement, save for a nurse-dubbed nanny. What would they have done to a whistleblower? I don't know how they found the baby, and I don't want to know. Whether a parent willingly gave her up, or one of the scientists intentionally bred her for the experiment, the result remains the same. A baby, named Mary, in honor of the philosophical concept which inspired the horrifying experiment, was placed in a white, windowless, foam-padded cell. She was blindfolded whenever her nurse entered the room to provide food, formula, and fresh clothes, always the same black onesie, with coverings like mittens and socks to cover her hands and feet. She was also made to wear a facial covering, akin to a balaclava, which covered her face. There was no mouth slit, to avoid her seeing the color of her lips, and she wore black contacts in her eyes. Equally, Nanny wore the exact same attire every time she entered the room. To put it simply, Mary's daily outfit was horrid, barely any more humane than a straitjacket and a bag over the head. There was no room for error. Mary was watched by at least one person at all hours of day and night. Should she get curious and try to sneak a peek at the color of her skin, or eyes, she would receive 100 volts in the collar attached to her neck. But more terrifyingly than that was the simple fact that Mary was well trained. So well trained that she never, in her 18 years of imprisonment, even attempted to take a peek at her skin. She was such a willing prisoner, having never known anything else, that I think she would have stayed in her room even if the door had been standing ajar. This initially seemed excessive, given that copious measures had been taken to ensure no reflective surfaces would be allowed within the room. Even the television monitor was fitted with an anti-glare screen. However, scientists were paranoid that Mary might, somehow, catch a glimpse of her green eyes. Even seeing her pale, peach-colored skin would have dirtied the results of the experiment. Black and white. Those were the only shades that Mary was permitted see. And when Mary started walking and talking, Nanny stopped entering the room entirely. Fresh food and clothes were delivered through a horizontal slit in the steel door, and Mary was always instructed to wear a blindfold before changing or using the bathroom, which comprised of a white porcelain toilet and a black showerhead fixed to the foam wall. Revoltingly, both were exposed in that titchy room of hers. Her entire world was a box, stretching a mere 4 meters across all 3 dimensions. I wanted to save her numerous times over the years, wanted to leave that horrid place behind. But I'm a coward. Besides, we wouldn't have got far. There is no running from these people. And the agency isn't even the greatest horror of this story. On Mary's 18th birthday, Dr. Robson delivered a thrilling message over the speaker. "Happy birthday, Mary," he said in a monotone lacking empathy. "Thank you," the girl meekly responded. "Will there be chocolate cake this year?" I wasn't fond of the lemon last year, you see." "Today, we'll be celebrating in a different way, Mary," Robson replied. "Do you know your age?" "I'm 18, she croaked. "Does that mean?" "Yes, Mary," Dr. Robson said. "Today, you leave the room." "I'll see. Color?" she asked rather innocently. Any sane and well-developed human in the outside world would have simply been glad to have freedom, but Mary had no concept of freedom. No concept of a prison. She had no understanding that this childhood had been abnormal, worse than abnormal. Inhuman. To keep Mary compliant, her schooling had been rigid, with books that purposefully omitted any dangerous ideas. The result of that? A girl relishing at the opportunity to not escape from her prison, but to simply see color. "Yes, Mary. You will see color. Nanny is already on her way to fetch you," Dr. Robson said. We watched live footage, filmed on a closed-circuit camera, from our operational room. Nanny unlocked the weighty entrance to Mary's room, and we all waited with bated breath, waited as Nanny aided Mary in removing her black headgear. I heard Mary giggling giddily, and unnervingly, as the bag was removed from her head and the contacts were removed from her eyes. And then, as her first experience with a color other than black or white, Nanny removed her own black outfit to revealing a striking red dress beneath. Mary gasped. It was an intake of breath so sharp that she seemed to stop breathing. Perhaps, for a moment, she had stopped breathing. "What are you experiencing?" Dr. Robson asked. "Is it new? Does it feel like—" "I knew it," Mary whispered, with vocal cords that sounded as if they were on the verge of snapping. Then her giggling picked up again, seeming to unnerve Nanny. "This is why you did the experiment, isn't it? Does this feel like a new experience, Mary?" Robson asked with a hint of impatience, seemingly oblivious to Nanny's discomfort. It was plainly clear to me, even through grainy camera footage. Mary shot her teary face up to the camera. "Yes, but I've been waiting for it." "Yes, I know that, Mary," Robson groaned. "But so have I. Tell me about it." Tell me about the red. How does it feel to experience true color for the first time? We're seeing some interesting brain activity on the screen here, but your words would really help us too. I'm not talking about the red, Mary interjected. And then she jabbed an accusatory finger at Nanny's dress in a way that frightened me, certainly frightened Nanny, who jumped backwards. I'm talking about that, she giggled. I knew there was something you were leaving out of the books and TV shows over the years. What are you saying, Mary? Robson asked. I don't understand. Red. You're looking at red. Red and the second color, she insisted. The color you didn't describe in the books. None of the adjectives you've used describe this one. Red is just as stark, powerful, and passionate as described. The blue color of Nanny's eyes is as soothing and tender as described. But this other color on her dress is just... What other color? Robson cried. It's just red, Mary. Right here. Mary yelled as she lunged forwards and prodded Nanny in the abdomen. The woman in the red dress jumped backwards, clutching her stomach, and then Mary's eyes went wide. Oh. She whimpered. What, Mary? Robson asked. Please tell us what you're seeing. What I saw, she whispered, moving her finger up to Nanny's face. It moved up there, and now it's gone. Please describe this other color to us, Mary, Robson said, before putting an image up on Mary's television set. Which one of those is it? Mary's eyes shot to the television screen and quickly scanned the 12 main colors on the screen. It's not one of those. Not a different shade of one of those. It's a different color. There are 10 million possible permutations of colors, Mary, Robson said. Perhaps you just... No, Dr. Robson, the girl interrupted, panting heavily as her eyes darted back to Nanny's face, studying it. I understand how shades work. The shade of blue on the screen differs from the color of Nanny's eyes. But that other color, it wasn't included on the screen. It was. Mary stopped, and her eyes widened. Then she said, I'm sorry. Nanny frowned. That's okay, Mary. I know you didn't mean to. Not you, Mary hissed, before leaning forwards and trying to look into Nanny's mouth. I'm sorry I saw you. Mary, you're not making any sense, Dr. Robson said. I think we've done enough for today. We'll do more tomorrow, so... I wasn't supposed to see it, Mary moaned, shooting backwards, clunking into the foam wall, then seizing clumps of her straggly hair. Oh, God. Why don't you see it? It's... Nanny. It's in you. Nanny looked up at the camera. I'd like to step outside now, Dr. Robson. Dr. Robson sighed, then pinched the bridge of his nose between two fingers. Fine, Nanny. Nanny had already spun on her heel to leave. She would have done so regardless of whether Robson gave her permission, as Mary was clearly disturbing her. But she barely took one step before her body fixed itself to the floor. And then Nanny juddered like a fleshy bobblehead. I was overcome by a warm sensation across my skin, and moments later, there came a thunderous explosion. Skin flew into the walls from a red eruption of dress fragments, blood, and guts. Nanny had spontaneously imploded. Screams filled the operating room. Some fled, some fainted, and others simply froze. I don't even know whether any of them noticed it, noticed Mary clawing out her eyes, leaving streaks of blood and tears across her cheeks as, mere minutes after seeing color for the first time, she ensured that she would never see anything else ever again. I'm sorry. The eyeless woman wailed. I didn't know I wasn't allowed. Please. I'll never see you again. As I saw a trail of blood run from Nanny's destructed corpse towards the front door, clearly painted by something unseen, a deep dread filled my chest. I realized that my fleeing colleagues had the right idea, so I followed, fled in fear, leaving Dr. Robson and my frozen co-workers behind. I don't remember leaving the building, getting in my car, and going home. But I must have done those things. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. Wouldn't be posting this for all of you. It's been 4 hours. 4 hours since Mary saw color for the first time. Saw a color that none of us saw. What was it? Why could only Mary see it?